What's going on YouTube? It is Mr. Ferguson here again with another Mr. Ferguson vlog video. Thank you so much for clicking on the video today. I'm not sure what I've titled this, but I want to jump right into it. This may be a two-part video depending on how much we get into. I don't want to go so long. I want to keep it sorta in a good time frame, so we may break this up into multiple videos. But guys, again, thank you for tuning in. Hit the like button if you enjoy it. And this is one that if this really touches you, or if you know someone that's dealing with addiction, I hope that you'll share this video by the end of it, that it would speak to you, minister to you, or be able to help somebody else. You would share it. I want to talk about what God has done in my life. I've talked about it in the past, but I want to go over it, and I just feel like in the way that our world is today and the situation we find our nation, that God was dealing with me this week on talking about addiction and dealing with addiction. I've dealt with addiction in my life. We all deal with addiction in our life, but specifically for me, it was a sexual addiction. There was different branches of that. So I want to kind of talk about that, and we may go into part two about staying free from addictions. Guys, if you don't know my story, I grew up, I was born in West Virginia. My dad, actually, the way God works, he's worked in my family since I was a young boy. My dad was working in the coal mines, got laid off. Well, my dad's looking for a job. It's just me, my mom, my dad, and Beckley, West Virginia. And dad's looking for a job, and he sees an advertisement for a woodworking job at this place, and then turns out in a West Virginia newspaper it was for Raleigh, North Carolina. So my dad goes all the way down to Raleigh, North Carolina, because he always loved woodworking, and they hire him. And so to my understanding, what dad shared with us and what he shared with the church many times that he's over now, is that he would go down during the week, he would work in Raleigh at this place called Carolina Builders, and he would come back on the weekends to me and mom, and did that for a long time until finally mom and me, we all moved down to North Carolina, and that's how I ended up here in North Carolina. So God was already working right there. So my dad was, as soon as I was born, that's when my parents really got saved. So I've always known them to be a Christian family. I grew up in a Christian home because my parents got saved at the start of my birth. There's a bee right here I'm gonna whack if he don't get out of here. One of them carpenter bees, man, eating up all my wood. But that's how I got down to North Carolina. And so I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church all the time. We were there every time the doors were open. My parents would go on Sunday morning. We'd go on Sunday morning, Sunday school. We would go at Sunday evenings. We was there on Wednesdays. And then eventually, as we moved out of Raleigh, more out to the country, God began to tell my dad, I want you to become a pastor. I want you to start a church. And my dad's like, are you insane? God kept putting on his heart, but I want you to start a church in this area, in this, Franklin County area of North Carolina. I want you to start a church. And dad kept resisting. We're continuing to go to church, but eventually he said, okay, he surrendered. He said, all right, God, I'm going to do what you've called me to do. And there's a lot of stories here, but we're going to keep going. And so they begin to go what's called the MIP program, which is to, be trained up in how to lead, in the Church of God program, how to be a man or woman of God, and how to be a pastor's wife. And so we was at church all the time. We were also going to different churches. And so why do you tell us all this? What does that have to do with you? Well, that's the home I grew up. Church was normal. Going to church was, hearing about Jesus was normal. And but it was in this time when my parents were in this MIP program that I found out for the first time in my life. I was probably I want to say, man, it's hard to remember, but I want to say between the ages of 8 and 12 or something like that. I don't know when exactly it was, but we was during this MIP program that they were having to go to different churches and assist and do all these different things. And we went to this place down in Raleigh, and they were having a revival. And there's this little cinder block building. I'll never forget. You walk in the cinder block building, to the right, whoever the guest speaker was, that it was during the week, and it was Sunday night or probably Monday night through Friday or something. There was a revival service, right? So in this little cinder block building with probably, I don't know, I can't remember, 30, 50 chairs in there, very small. There was a table in the back that the minister had set up with a bunch of stuff that he was selling, obviously because he's a traveling preacher. And so I went in, and for whatever reason, there was Bibles there. And I said, man, I was like, I like this black Bible. You know what? I want to read my Bible more. I want this black Bible. And I was looking at it, I was like, Mom, But I said, Mom, I was like, I really want this black Bible. And you know how moms and dads are. We'll see, not tonight. We don't have the money right now. Like, no, Stephen, we got plenty going on, right? They're just not in, sweet mom, like, oh, whatever you want, hunt. No, it's like, Stephen, not right now, maybe at the end of the week, payday comes or whatever. And I was like, okay. So every night we're coming back to that service and I see that black Bible. And so here comes Friday. And I was like, Mom, and she's like, Stephen, I'm sorry, we don't have the money. No, I don't know I don't know what mind frame my mom was in, but she's just like, I'm sorry, no, we're not going to do that. Like, I don't know if she just thought, that's unnecessary. I don't know, but I did not get that black Bible, and I was so disappointed. And so weeks later, we go down to Fayetteville, totally different church. Never been to this church ever in my life. And it's right around, I know it's right around the October time frame when this revival happened, or September, October time frame, because we go to this church way down in Fayetteville. And this church is having like a fall festival thing for Halloween. And so she's like, yeah, they're having this. Stephen and Adam, we're going to dress up. We're going to take them down to, what's their name's church down in Fayetteville. Never been here before. So I don't even know what we dressed up. Noah, Moses, I don't know what we dressed up as, but we dressed up and go down to Fayetteville, North Carolina. And so we're there. We don't know anybody. We're two little boys there, younger guys. So I think, like I said, I was between 8 and 12. So I'm a little bit older at this time, dressing up in some Bible costume as Moses or something like that, or Pharaoh. And we get down there, they have this costume contest, and me and I don't know if my brother won, but I won something like, oh, for best dressed, Stephen Ferguson or whatever. And I was like, oh, and I want you to know, that I won a black Bible because God knew my heart, and he proved to me that day. I'll never forget. He proved to me in that situation, from that revival to that contest, that he is God, and he knew my heart, and he knew how much I wanted to read his word. And I didn't tell anybody. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed when my mom did not get me that Bible, and I moped, but I didn't throw a fit. I didn't throw a temper tantrum. I was just so disappointed. And I prayed during that week, God, I want that black Bible. Please let my mom buy that for me. And it didn't happen in my timing. But I go to a church I've never been to, and God proved to me that day I won a black Bible, exactly what I wanted. God knew. And from that day forward, I knew there was a God. From that day forward, I knew the Bible was real. I knew it at the young age of between 8 and 12 years old. I knew it from that day forward. That's a key part of my life, of why I'm standing before you today in front of a video crying as a man, telling you this story, because God proved himself to me at a very young age. So anyways, trying to move forward, that was when God really revealed himself to Stephen. And so I begin to grow up, and again, I begin to go into church. Mom and Dad buys the building, and we start, Steve and Adam, after school, on Saturdays. Our whole Saturdays was cutting the grass at our house and going to the church, the little brick building that we were renting out for New Hope Worship Center. And, after we had moved it from our living room, we got a building, and now we're having to go out there and we're working on it. Dad's working on it. My parents were at the church all the time, working on it, painting. Other members would come out and help, and we're cutting the grass. And so we're there all the time, and working. And then we're there for many years, and we have some teens coming, and the church begins to grow and people begin to come. And so we're going to church again. We're there Wednesday night, Thursday night, Mom and Dad's at prayer meeting. We're there Sunday morning, Sunday school. We're there Sunday night. We're at church all the time. Grew up knowing God. And so we grew up as a normal family, going to church all the time. Me and my brother Adam, who's 3 years younger than me. And so to fast forward a little bit, somewhere along that time frame, there was one of the guys that came to our church. He lived up the street, very nice guy, but he wasn't he came by himself. He came, and one day Jesse comes to our house and he brings a Playboy. This is the first time I ever was introduced to sex, the female body. It was a Playboy, obviously, naked women in Playboys, right? And so we hid it because we know sin, like felt guilty, like, oh my gosh. And my brothers, I think brother saw it, I saw it, and he brings it, we hide it, and I'm just captivated. It was like a new veil was opened up. I never, but we didn't have cable TV. We didn't have the internet back then. We're out in the country a little bit, a little ways. And so my dad didn't have pornography magazines. We didn't have videotapes. We didn't have none of that stuff on my property. There was no way for me to even access that. But here it came to me. And so this guy brings a magazine, and it stays out in the woods, and we bury it. And I'd go out there and sneak looks at it or something until it got rained on and you couldn't see it anymore. But some of the pages you could. And so it opened up a door in my life. That is the beginning. I remember that because it opened up something in my eyes and my heart. And from then on out, I had that on my brain all the time until the end of this story, which is an ongoing story. And so I begin to, at that point, I'm still going to church, and I know through the guilt, like, I shouldn't be looking at this, but man, this is so interesting. So that's what a woman looks like, and you're just, some of that is just natural curiosity of a man, but there's a sin factor that I shouldn't be seeing this. And there was a guilt about it and a hide this, just like Adam and Eve when God came into the garden, right? And they began to hide from him. That's exactly how I felt. If my dad would have said, Stephen, I would have put that down and been scared to death because I know I'm looking at something I shouldn't be looking at. And then later on, there's another couple that comes to the church later on, and I go and spend the night at his house. And I'm in probably just entering high school at this time, and he's like, hey, you want to come hang out at my house? Well, he's with a single mom, and he's got a brother, and he's my age with a brother and a younger brother, younger sister, and a single mom, and they were coming to church, but they weren't really living the Christian life outside the church. And so he had a Penthouse magazine. So now this guy invites me over, and not knowing that, it's introduced to me, and now he has it. So now it's not just the physical body, now it's the actions behind it. And it's like these things are being presented to me as like, oh my gosh, like, what are they doing and how are they doing? And I'm beginning to learn through what the world is teaching me through these magazines. The lust begins to grow in my heart, and of course these images get stuck up here, and it begins to open doors. And so but when I go home, I have no access to this. I can't do nothing. So it's just the images I have here to work with, so to speak. I can't pull up the TV. I can't do that. But then later on, there was times when I tried to go through this like magazine service, and I picked Playboy and tried to get it. Said, okay, maybe in my little scheming mind, said maybe if I can order the Playboy and get it before mom and dad go to the mailbox, if I can guess right and get it, then they'll never know, and I can hide it. I even tried that one time, and I don't think it worked. I think mom or dad got it and was like, what is this? And I don't even know if they figured out that I ordered it. To this day, I don't know, and they just threw it out. So I would try to like, how can I, get my own, because this guy's got it, how can I get it? And so there was just something in me that was just a lust. A door was open, and I began to be obsessed with the female body, with sex, with these things. It was just, it came to me. And of course I could have said, no, I don't want that, and walked away. But as a young kid, when nobody's looking, I'm away from home, I'm away from mom and dad, they're not there watching over my shoulder. I made the choice and the decision, and obviously I indulged what the flesh wanted. And I learned, man, that is, ooh, she's hot. Oh, look at this. And it began to feed my flesh. And so as I went through high school, I didn't acquire, a lot of this. We didn't have phones still. We didn't have pornography on the internet or anything like that. But that thing was in me that was just like, I would look at girls and say, man, she's hot, but I was scared to death. I would never speak a word to the girls that I thought were beautiful or hot or anything like that. But I did have girlfriends, but I wasn't a touchy-feely guy. It was, if anything, I'd kiss them on the cheek. We never, all throughout high school, we never had sexual relations with girls. Nope, I'm not going to go that far. I just like to look at them on the page, and that was my secret that I had. And my dad and my mom found out, about some of these magazines. It's like, had talks with us. So it was an internal family thing. We didn't broadcast that to the church. We didn't broadcast that to the world. It was something like, hey, you need to pray about that. And Dad would have devotions and talk about it. And so I got taught properly. These things are not something we need to be messing with. This is dangerous. And my dad would have talks with me and talk about, this is sin, and sin is fun for a season, Stephen, but if you keep going after it, it's going to grab a hold of you, and when you want to let it go, it's not going to let you let it go. I remember these talks. He talked to me. My dad did the right thing in teaching me of how sin is. It's only fun for a season. And so as I begin to go through high school, that was there and that was developing. And so we bought the new property for the church, we're still going to church all the time. And I'm still hanging out with people at high school that are going to the church, but I just had this inside thing that I dealt with on my own. And as we get the new church property, so I began to have a couple girlfriends, and it wasn't until basically right after high school that I was introduced to drinking for the first time. I actually drank alcohol at the graduation party. I had a buddy that started coming to the church again. He needed Jesus, and I wasn't the friend I needed to be to introduce him to the Lord. I was pursuing for the first time, like, what is all these other things about? What's drinking all about? Started to let words come out of my mouth, would listen to the hip-hop music that everybody at school, the rap, the Wu-Tang Clan, the Rough Riders, all the things that were on K97.5 on the radio that all the kids were singing. I wanted to be cool like them and listen to, so I'm pumping myself full of the music with the words and with the sexual theme music, and I'm thinking about these things, and I don't know what I had material wise as far as I didn't have anything pornographic, but I'm exploring the world at this point, and I'm just letting loose and like, okay. And step by step, at a graduation party with a girlfriend, the first time anything sexual happened was with alcohol. And so I had this girl, she was one of my girlfriends at the time. I was a senior, she was still in school, and the first night I ever drank alcohol was the first night anything sexual ever happened. So immediately I began to think, so all I have to do is drink and let loose and get the girl to drink and let loose, and this is what happens as a result. You get to do what you want to do. And it was baby steps. See, I had to work myself up. I was too shy to do it on my own, but if I would drink, I found out, man, it's much easier to do the things that I want to do when I drink, because my mind is there it's like you're silencing the Holy Spirit. That's exactly what I was doing. You're silencing the Holy Spirit. And I put two and two together and said, if I'll silence my conscience, if I'll silence my the things that I know to be true and what God wants me to do, if I shut that up, I can indulge in what I really want to do, which is to be with this girl and be like all the other guys and have it like, yeah, man, I was with such and such. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm cool. I wanted that cool attitude. I wanted that cool reputation, in a sense, not so much to tell everybody I did this, but I wanted to experience these things. And so it wasn't till after high school that that's where I began to go with my buddies, and I wasn't a Christ-like guy. Or example to my friends, and I began to just let loose. And then all of a sudden there's also something else that the enemy began to build up in me, and that was an anger. Your parents are never there for you. Your dad used to take you out and play ball with you, baseball all the time with you and your brother. Now all he does is focus on that church, all they care about. And then I would say, yeah, but they're working for the Lord, they're doing the right thing. Yeah, but and then I would hear, yeah, but they're not there for you. So just do what you want, man. What if all that is garbage anyway? What if they're just feeding you all this church stuff all your life and they're working for absolutely nothing? And you're missing it, man. You're missing it. Everybody's out there having a good time, but you're not. You're stuck going up to this church and doing this. And it was just like, because I'd opened up myself at an early age to the things, not knowing in some ways. And then once I did, I continued to indulge. I continued to come back to the sin, but I'd open up myself. Now I'm opening up myself to drinking. I'm opening up myself to guys that are smoking weed. Tried that a couple times. Wasn't for me, but tried it a couple times. But didn't never really have that moment, but some of my friends were. But I'm opening up myself to the music, to the anti-God music, and so I'm just going the total opposite way that I was born. I was trying to be somebody that I was not. And every single time I would go to a party, every single time I'd go with my friends to these places, I would say the curse words like everybody else. I would have a beer in my hand like everybody else, have a cup in my hand, be looking at the girls and who do I want to be with, and so things of that nature, and trying to be cool around my friends. But I never fit in, and to this day I can tell you I never fit in. I knew I do not belong here. I knew deep inside my soul I don't belong here. I was not happy. I was miserable. And so I began to build up this anger towards my dad, this anger towards my mom. They're always busy with the church. I know we're supposed to do God's work, but they're always there. They don't give me any attention. I want to be with my parents. I want them. And it was just an excuse for the devil to continue to use me, to blame them and continue to try to take me down a road to destroy my life. And so eventually got a car, graduated. I'm with a buddy, have a wreck. So God tried to get my attention through some of this and wake me up. I'm with my buddy from high school, and also a buddy that I was going to go into the military with at the same time later on. But it's right after high school, start paying for a newer car, and we're going to have to cut it off here in just a second because I don't want to go on and on. We'll have a continuation next week. But we're going to, we're downtown Raleigh. They have the car scene because back in the Fast and Furious days, everybody's fixing up their car cool like Fast and Furious. So we'd meet in Raleigh around 10:30, and it's girls and guys and, just hanging out. And it was our scene, right? It was what we did in the early 2000s. It sounds stupid today. They probably still do it in some places. But I'm going down Capitol. I'm looking at everybody, completely run a red light, boom. Hit a car, totaled my car. It was a 99 Cougar. I love that car. Just had it not too long, and it's totally demolished. Well, the thing about that is I sat in the side of the road with my buddy. We're totally fine. Nobody got hurt. But as I'm sitting there, what had happened the day prior, Friday, is I got fired from my first job for being an idiot on a night shift job. I got promoted to night shift. I was way too young. The company should have never put me where they did. But I was doing foolish things on the forklift, playing around. They said, Steven, we got to let you go. They didn't even move me back to day shift where I came from. They just fired me. So I get fired on Friday. I total my car on Saturday night with my buddy. And so God, clearly, I knew, and I remember then going on Friday after I got fired, going there and watching my brother's ball game and just thinking, God, I just got fired. I just failed. I just messed up. I'm a good guy. I go to church. My parents are Christians. I'm a good hard worker. I know that I am, but I just got fired. Like that's on my resume now. And it was just sinking into me. Then Saturday, I wrecked my car for, coming out thinking, now what? What did I do wrong? Now I wrecked my car and I'm just in a pickle. And I'm just like, and God was trying to get my attention. You are headed down the wrong path, sir. It's time to wake up. It's time to come back to me. And it's like, nope, didn't get the message. And so we'll kind of leave it there and pick up from, after high school times there. But we're going to get, this is the start. And so as I wrap it up, because I want you to come back next week and I want you to listen again. I'm deep diving into what I've experienced, and we're talking about the lead up to where I went and to where God had to take me from. And so I want you to share this story. This is my story. This is Steven's story. I have no reason to lie. I have no reason to make any of this up. I believe in being transparent because of what Jesus did. I've got to tell you who I truly was, before I can tell you what God has done for me. And so I hope you'll come back next Midweek Quickie and share this with somebody. Again, if somebody that is struggling with addiction of any sort of type, especially pornography, and they're struggling with pornography, they're struggling with a girl addiction, with an internet addiction, with drug addiction. I don't know as much about the drugs, but I challenge you to share this video, share this part 1 as we go into part 2 and maybe even part 3 that I want to share with you where God brought me from. So I thank you for tuning in. I hate that I can't get more, but I don't want to make this an hour-long video. I want you to come back in pieces and we can break this down. So thank you for tuning in. We'll picking it up next week. Let me know your comments below and questions. If I didn't make something clear, if maybe I confused you in the way I described something, please comment below. And I hope that you will come back next Midweek Quickie next Wednesday right here on the channel. We may do a special one and put it out early, but I may go ahead and record it and have it ready for next week, but so that I can keep my timeline straight. But God bless you. Thank you so much for watching this week. Hope that you have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week on the next Midweek Quickie. God bless.